the topic here, guitar effects, and we brought along a couple of guitars for vets instructors and our own director of online learning, Paul Lilley. And Paul, I'm going to bring you up on screen right now and welcome you to our first guitar shop for 2025. I know you were excited about this topic as well too. I mean, we've talked about effects is in pedals, but also in amps. The most recent being, some of the popular amps that are circulating around the G4V Learning Center. But welcome. What are your thoughts on effects?
Thanks. Thanks, Tom. I gotta say, Dan, I'm loving the hat. That is awesome. You're rocking it.
It's an
It's
original
so am.
tam,
It's an original what?
a crocheted tam.
Oh, that's nice. So, I just had a recent experience where in our local in-person chapter, we graduated a student. He got his acoustic guitar. We have a lending library for our graduates, and those are often electric guitars that were donated to our program. So he kept coming to some of the jam sessions and said he wanted to try an electric guitar. And there's nothing like seeing a veteran for the first time when you plug them into an amp. They know a few power chords. You turn a high gain setting on and you just watch them do down strums on power chords and move them around. It's a whole new area to explore. So I love, from an instructor standpoint, I love a lot of the teaching tools that are out there. Um, the Spark amp was, I think, what you were referring to, Tom. That's kind of a practice amp that's got a really nice interface that we were kind of looking at just before folks came on that show all the different virtual pedals that you could still dial in, by scrolling up or down on it. So from a teaching standpoint, it's awesome, but from a playing standpoint, it's really awesome as well.
Oh man, there are so many options to play the hundreds, if not thousands, of effects that are out there. And Dan, I know that I know that you prepared some screenshots of the various options
Yeah,
that exist out there. You want to go ahead and at least tease us a little bit with
yeah, sure.
some of that gear?
Let me
And I'm
get
just going to say, Daniel,
situated.
while you're bringing that up, not only are there more options, but the puzzle is it's still harder and harder to find our tone, our sound.
Add
That
that to
is
the equation.
absolutely the truth, Paul. It took me, I think, a better part of 5 years to really dial in what I liked and what I wanted. Uh, you
I'm
know,
thinking I just need an amp that has one thing on it, and it's the input for my guitar. That's
and
it.
I think it's this one right here, Paul.
Oh, what do you got there? Oh boy, here we go.
I featured this one just for you, Mr. Lilley. This is the Positive Grid Spark. It's a little 5-watt beauty that sits on your desk. It's about the size of a purse and very simple to operate. And this is a Bluetooth amp. This is the future right here. And let me bring this up a little bit. That's the top of it. It's all there is. One input.
Is that? Are you sure that's not a coin purse? That looks
That's
awfully.
well.
I
There's no. I don't see a coin slot anywhere.
that handle almost looks like that,
It
zipper.
might
So
be on the
okay.
battery pack on the other side. That's what it is.
Wow, wow, I'm
You put a
impressed.
quarter in and you can play it for 15 minutes.
Like a pinball machine.
Just right.
Oh wow,
Anyway,
that's
these are
awesome.
these are beauties right here. If you're just starting out, you want to explore into pedals or into effects. This comes with software that you actually use your phone on, right? Am I correct, Paul?
Yeah, it could work independent of it, but yeah, you can interface all of the different effects with an app on your phone.
Cool enough. All right. Now, I just wanted to show some examples of amplifiers that are out there for acoustic guitar and what they have to offer. This is a Fender Acoustasonic. It's a plain Jane. It's about 40 watts. It has two channels. It's using the multiple uh, purpose plug-in, which you can plug a microphone or a quarter-inch cord into. It's very bones. I mean, Uh, as far as effects go, it's what you put into it. There is reverb in this, and we'll discuss reverb a little later on. Plus, you have your tone settings. All right. Let me move on a little bit more here. This is a little bit upper scale, the Fishman amp. This is a little micro. It's not that big, about the size of a suitcase or carry-on suitcase, if even that, half the size. And this actually particular model has a distinguishing microphone and guitar inputs and everything that can relate with it. It does include chorusing, and you can actually play around with the chorusing on this. It's about a medium price. I think you can get this one particular model, I think it's somewhere around 350, 400.
I just picked this one up. My name's Victor,
Hi, Victor.
and I just got this for like 245.
Nice. Good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, Peavy's starting to get into the mix of modeling amps, and this one particular model is decidedly it's the Viper X2, and it's able to do bass, acoustic, or electric guitar, which is kind of cool. And I'll just show you the top of this really quick. And you can see all the modeling controls that are on it, plus your basic unit where you got your regular low, high, medium, or low, mids, and highs. It does, I believe this is only a 2-channel, but you can use one. I think it was that you can use a microphone in.
And I'm seeing, at least the amps that you're presenting right now, there's a common denominator here in the way of effects, chorus,
Chorus,
reverb,
reverb.
and the
This
EQ.
particular
Yeah.
one, hang on, once I get to the picture. This is just the back side of this thing, showing you how the inputs can go. The inputs are on the back side of this. This is like a street amp, acoustic. It's made for street, but it's known for acoustic, for open mics and stuff like that. And this is what the top of this thing looks like.
There it is. Yeah. Acoustic
And
amps seem
then
to have the same features. It looks like. I mean, everything that
it
you've
does.
shown.
I
Is that
mean,
that's interesting? Not too
it
difficult
seems
for beginners, I would imagine, if it's just these basic chorus, reverb, and equalization, um, which is why we're here, to talk
right.
about the
It seems
easier.
to be the common denominator on these acoustic amps. This one's similar to one that you yourself have,
Mhm.
Tom.
Yeah, love that amp.
And
Love
the
it. Yeah.
AC33. This is just a little brother of Tom's, and it's fairly a simple layout. Again, with a guitar input and a microphone, and with separate stations. And as you can see, there's chorusing on this, and you can change the little bit of the parameter on the chorusing. What else can you do with this one, Tom, as far as chorus and reverb? There's
It's
delay
got
too, right?
yeah, it does. It's what I really like about it is the anti-feedback feature. And acoustic guitars are known,
Mm-hmm.
there are a couple of different ways that you can address the feedback, but this is built into the Roland acoustic chorus amplifiers. And I'm sure that there are other amplifiers that feature this as well. But I definitely leverage that when I need to.
Oh,
I would
the
love a looper pedal on that.
Yeah, loopers.
right. The
Yeah.
feedback is one of the enemies of the acoustic guitar and putting it through an amplifier. Uh, Feedback busters, they call them, are simple the rubber discs that can go into the sound hole, which helps to cut that back a lot. The reason it's coming out is because of the vibrations of the top. That's what's
Mhm.
causing all that feedback. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you want to minimize that, or again, learning. Well, a lot of these acoustic amps will have a contour on your mid-range frequencies, which the mid-range frequencies are what really is causing, you're up around, and we'll discuss frequencies eventually. It would be anywhere between a 750 to a 1 K frequency, uh, that would where that feedback is coming from.
See, this is how we get into our 2 hour long planning discussions because they're really it's you can talk about one feature and then ask about another feature that's associated with it, and then we go down that path. But thank you, Dan, for that.
Oh wait, I had one more thing I forgot to show.
Sure,
I
what is
had a
it?
gig recently,
Yeah,
and I wanted to show the amplifier I used.
we're doing the tip of the tip of the day.
Oh, and
Now.
boys and girls,
Okay.
this is what happens when we go to the beach and have a gig. You
Beach
see, it was a
blanket
windy
bingo.
day,
No.
and
Is this yours?
this is my Crate Acoustic 30 watt. I got to show the top on this one. I mean, it was. I have cleaned it since, but I mean it's
Oh my goodness.
that's what they look like when they come off of a gig on
Yeah.
the beach.
Yeah, and don't be blaming it on the dog.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't want to
So,
hear
ladies
that.
and gentlemen, this is something you don't want to do. This is
Yeah.
definitely that was
Yeah.
being tired after the event. That I said, "Oh,
I hope your guitar
I'll
is in
get it
better
the
shape.
next day," and actually, it sat for a few days. So.
All right, Dan. Hey, I'm going to bring in the other panelists, Michael O'Connell, John DeMarco, who have been on our podcast before with the Guitar Shop. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I wanted to go ahead and kick off this next segment with perspective, and that is picture yourself back when you were just learning to play guitar. You finally accomplished, how to play chords, open chords, and you got your strumming down. And now you're even starting to maybe sing a little bit, or maybe you just, want to, consider amplification, or, some type of accessory that can throw in some effects. I mean, it doesn't really have to be pedals or an amp these days. But maybe I'll start with you, Michael. What was it that got you interested in making the jump into effects?
Oh, wow. I just wanted the. So first of all, I'm a performing artist, and been doing it for quite some time. But I just wanted to be able to project the sound farther than my guitar could, right? So I needed an amplifier. Started out with Acoustasonics Junior and Acoustasonic amps, and then began to explore, beyond the chorus and the reverb that you find on the amps. I wanted to explore some other tones and discovered, hey, wait a minute, I can put some overdrive on this acoustic guitar, right? Now we're talking about a plugged-in acoustic electric. And so, you take a couple of songs that all of a sudden they go from this beautiful acoustic sound to this beautiful overdrive sound, and I can kick that on with a pedal. Sounds really cool. And then I became a true musician, and I have now accumulated about 30 pedals or so, and all sorts of gear and multiple guitars.
Do you have more
And
pedals than guitars,
yeah,
or
I
do you
have
have?
more pedals than
Oh,
guitars. I actually do. So,
okay. Well, we got to
uh,
work on that.
yeah.
What's the
So, and,
ratio?
and and when I do my presentation, I'll just briefly talk about how I'm unwinding all of those pedals and working with software. So we'll go from there.
Let me go to John now. Hey, John, I know back when we were, starting off playing guitar, and we knew that there were amps with the features that were built into it, and we started to see pedals as well. How did you go about, selecting what step you wanted to take? The options that were out there, did you feel inundated, first of all, with like, oh my God, there are so many options? And then when you decided that I decided to go down this path, maybe you can talk a little bit about making those decisions.
Yeah, so I was pretty lucky. I wound up this is in high school, and I don't know how it happened, but I wound up with a Fender Bassman amp. And if you remember those, they were as big as house, and they were very powerful amps. And one of my frustrations was that most of the, like in school dances and that kind of stuff, um, was that to get the that amp to distort, it had to be incredibly loud. So the first thing I went looking for was some sort of a distortion pedal or that kind of a thing. Because I wanted that gritty sound, but I didn't want to be, blasting. I mean, when the drummer says to you, "You're too loud," you know you're in trouble, right? So that was my introduction to pedals, and so I had that amp for a long time, and then a little bit later on in life, I discovered that more is not necessarily better because it was little venues, so smaller amps wound up being kind of the thing. And that's when I started collecting pedals because I had this little amp. I could get some distortion out of it, but then what else could I do with my sound? And I got to tell you, this was way before the internet. So, the only way you learned about it was going into the music store and trying out a bunch of pedals and then maybe what you could borrow from friends and stuff like that. So, and
All
I
right.
also have about 30 pedals, which I
Oh,
use less and less of them as time goes on. But
well, let's talk about the effects that are built into amplifiers. And I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna be the first to say, you know what, I don't have a whole lot of pedals. I've experimented with a number of multi effects pedals with from Boss. Um, but I found that, you know what, I really want to just play guitar. So I'll make use of the effects on the amp themselves, which led me to that Roland acoustic chorus 60 and 90. And then as I started to see more products come out, I moved over to the Fender acoustic amp, not the one that we were showing you earlier, but they've got a later version. Um, and lo and behold, it's kind of like, hey, it's got the same effects as it does on the Roland. It's like it's got the chorus, it's got the reverb, it's got delay, it's got the EQ. And I figured, maybe this is, taking that information, the same features and the same effects from these acoustic amps might be a good way to introduce our veteran learning community, give them an introduction on just those effects for right now. And then hopefully the next time we get together, if we decide to do like a acoustic to an electric guitar, or maybe multi effects pedals, or even modeling, we might be able to share with you some knowledge of at least these basic effects before we jump into future guitar shops on those topics. So with that, I would like to go ahead and get John to share, some of the solutions that are out there, followed by Michael, who has some additional solutions. And we're going to try and cover not everything that's out there, but we're going to touch on some of the newer technologies that are out there, uh, as well as some of the classic and vintage uh, pedals and amps that we've used over the decades, just to give you all a flavor of what the effects what it all looks like out there. So, John, let's go ahead and start with you. What have you got? What have you got to start off with?
well, I was just going to start off with, just something really basic is the fact that, the boxes that I'm talking about are these kinds of things. It's these stomp pedals, as we used to call them, and again, I own probably way more than I should. If you ask my wife, she'll definitely say I own more than I should. Um, but like here's a six-band, equalizer. We'll talk little bit about that probably in a future episode of what this is. But think of it as a tone control on steroids, sort of. And then I own way too many pedals that are like this, that are essentially distortion or overdrive pedals. And then that first one was a compressor. Now, so just to kind of give you an idea, let me just share my screen. And what I want to share is not that. what I want to share is, here we go. There we go. You can see my slides, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of types of effects, and you know, they're available as software, they're available on amps, and then a lot of them are you know, available as pedals. So, you know, first of all, I'd say tuners are really important if you're going to be using any kind of amplification, because it allows you to have a pedal or a tuner to tune, you know, accurately. Compressors kind of control the dynamics of what you're playing. And then you have things like expression pedals, volume, octaver, pitch shifters, and whammy pedals, etc. Distortion, where my heart and soul was when I was younger, especially. We talked briefly about EQ, but then, you know, I think what we're going to talk about in just a minute that's very common on a lot of amplifiers is modulations, things like chorus, and also things like delay and reverb. And then last but not least on my list is loopers, and I probably left out a few things, but you know, these are all things you can do to sculpt your sound. And you know, it sort of looks like this on the left-hand side of the slide. Essentially, you're talking about a lot of different kind of boxes that can be cobbled together. Again, you know, on the right-hand side, we've got what I would call multi-effects, which is like Line 6 and Zoom, etc. Have got these digital pedals that have a whole lot of effects built into them with presets. And then, of course, you know, Paul, for you, I put two different sparks up here because I know that's, you know, where you're near and dear to your heart. And I have to tell you, I'm going to probably break down and get one of these days, because they are impressive. And they have, you know, infinite control, and it's pretty simple to run. And then I can put all my pedals on eBay or something. Then there's software effects, and I think Mike's going to talk more about this in more depth, but there's a lot of different companies out there, and most of them will let you download for free a limited number of pedals. And so you see some examples here: Tone Bridge, Amp Locker, Guitar Rig, Amplitude. There's literally dozens of these. These are probably some of the bigger names. And what's nice about these is that you can audition the pedal and decide if you really want to buy the pedal or if you just want to continue using it as software. Because nobody wants to build you know, a shelf full of pedals like I've got. And then the last thing I wanted to just briefly talk about is the fact that there is sort of, you know, this idea of what order do you put these effects in, whether they're physical stomp boxes or they're you know, digital software or something. And on the left-hand side here, you can see the guitar on the right and the amp on the left, and essentially you daisy chain through from the tuner to you know, some kind of compressor, perhaps a wah pedal, and then you move to a boost or a drive pedal or fuzz, and then you put your kind of like your ambience at the end. Now, interestingly enough, I was talking to Daniel the other day, and he was saying he put his you know, reverb and delay at the end of the chain, and the way he did that, I think, and you can talk to it if you want, Daniel, is using on the amplifier something that's called a send out and then an in. So you can see on the diagram on the right, instead of all the effects being before the amp, you can put some effects, if you've got this out, after the amp. And this obviously changes the you know, the color of your sound, right? It's going to change it dramatically. And it's frankly something I haven't done. When Daniel said he put his you know, his kind of grittier effects after the amp, I was sort of surprised, but now I'm intrigued. I have to try and play around with it.
I use the effects loop quite often, especially with a more powerful amp.
Yeah. Okay.
Like my Marshall, or I had a couple of rack mount amps.
Cool. Very cool. Well, so what I thought I'd do just for the next part here, and let me just switch cameras here. I've got I've got my effects. Are you guys seeing my effect pedals here on screen? Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
so, and you can hear my guitar
in stereo.
Yep.
in stereo. Lovely. So, if this is my guitar going directly in, you can hear it. And essentially what I've got here now are kind of the most common effects. And so the first one I'll talk about is the reverb one here. And I'll turn that on. And now you should be able to hear a bit of an echo. And the thing about reverb is, if you think about it, back in the day, there was only a couple ways to get this sound. And the way they did it was they literally built into a lot of amplifiers something that was called a spring reverb. And it was literally a little box with a big old spring in it. And I'm not exactly sure how the signal went through, but you can remember those amps that when you would move them, they would make this crashing sound if they were turned on. And that was a spring reverb. Well, this pedal has got spring, and it's also got plate, which was what they used in studios, which was a great big piece of not aluminum, but stainless steel. And it was the same kind of thing. It was reverberating this piece of stainless steel, big sheet of it. And that's what was there. And then you had the kind of the natural thing, which was you were in a big room, and that hall is what made the sound. And in fact, there were some early rock bands who recorded like in churches if they could get in there because of the acoustics. So I'm just going to show you just real briefly the different reverbs with this pedal. So if you listen to that, and now I switch to the next one on this box, you should hear a subtle difference. And then last but not least, that's the hall one.
The name of that is a hall, and why is that?
I think it was just their way of nomenclature for like as if you were in a building, and it was the natural reverberation of the building. Yeah.
Marble floors, wood walls, high ceilings.
I can tell my guitar's a little out of tune, and I could turn on my tuner here and tune up, but I won't bore you guys with that because there's nothing like listening to people tune their guitar to make them want to leave.
That's your tip of the day.
Yeah,
another
exactly.
tip of the day.
So the next one is actually an interesting. The reason I pulled it out of my collection is because it's actually two pedals in one, and you can see it's got two buttons on it to activate it. So on the one side, these three knobs here are controlling basically a delay, and delay is a little different than reverb in that you kind of get this. This kind of slap back thing, and you can change the parameter. You can make it faster or more repeats or less repeats. And again in stereo. And then this last one here is a chorus. And the thing with a chorus, you can have how fast it sort of not reverberates, but how fast it cycles. And if you think about it, these two things here, along with the reverb, and a lot of other stuff, is like the Edge from U2. He just loves that delay. He loves using in conjunction with chorus and reverb. Another person who used chorus a lot was there were several songs that Stevie Ray Vaughan did, where he had this almost like an organ sounding kind of a thing. And he may have used something called a Leslie occasionally too, but I know he did a lot of chorus stuff, which is this fast. And then of course there's other parameters, right? How much of this is in the mix compared to the original guitar sound? And that's what all these knobs are basically doing for you, is letting you kind of fine tune it to your specific sound that you're after. So that's kind of the quick rundown. You could spend a long time tweaking these, just like you can anything else with guitars. And so, I would say the only danger that I can think of is that you may do more tweaking of these effects than playing actual music, and that's a dangerous thing as far as I'm concerned, because really it should be about the music.
Easy to do with technology to get swept away and
Excellent, John.
yeah, yeah. All right. John, thank you so much. To continue on this discussion, Michael, I want to bring you up and let's see, make sure you're unmuted here. Hate for you to talk through it like how I typically do on mute. Um, let's see here. Here we go.
I think I'm unmuted.
I thank goodness, because we need to hear what you have to say about the effects. And what are you going to share with us now?
Well, so the effects, excuse me, the effects journey is, and by the way, there's a vocal processor to get rid of that thing that I just growled at you. But the
I
effects
won't.
journey for me was it started really acoustically, and I mentioned earlier that I got the Acoustasonics Junior, right? So chorus, reverb, and some other little tweaks on it. But I also sing. And so I went and picked up what's called a TC Helicon Play Acoustic pedal. And if you've ever seen, production, or if you well, so we all listen to production music. Production music always has, unless you're low budget or you just want pure raw sound, acoustic. If it's an acoustic guitar, acoustic processing and vocal processing. And so you can take this pedal, simple enough. You plug your guitar and your microphone into it. It listens to your guitar, and then it applies some basic acoustic kind of tonality changes to it. It can make your guitar sound richer. You can put delay in it if you're doing a little country slap back. You can put chorus. But as it listens to your guitar and outputs that signal, right, with all those effects, it's also tuning your voice. And so, so,
So,
so
so if
it's
you're
okay.
a little pitchy, you're a little pitchy. This is your, this is your
Yeah, if you're a
go-to.
little pitchy and you're playing a G chord, it'll go, well, I know he's trying to sing G and it sounds sort of like he's in that right pitch, but let me just fix it a little bit. And you can adjust how much it fixes it and such. But it also puts reverb on your voice. It can smooth it out. So if you're interested in acoustic playing with vocals, there it is. It's TC Helicon Play Acoustic. Yes, it's a few $100, and I think they still manufacture them. But that's a great first pedal to pick up and go with. Okay.
Hey, Michael, let me ask you this because obviously you can do some things, and we'll talk on the vocal side rather than the guitar side. Does it also, if it's doing pitch correction, does it do harmonies by any chance?
Oh, you've
Or
seen this pedal before, or you? Yes.
no?
So
Well, I'm I've been to a
So
few gigs,
yes,
and
yes, it does harmonies. And so you pick a song where there's a harmony in the chorus. You step on the button and the harmony kicks in. You step on the button and the harmony goes away. So
yeah,
yes.
cool. I mean, wouldn't it be nice? You're a performer. I mean, you're out there, gigging and such. I've always dreamt of, can I just have someone do 2 or 3 part harmony for with an acoustic guitar with me? And it's like no one's available. It's like, okay, there's got to be
So
something out there that
so
does
as I
that.
as I I used to perform in the big lobby in the hall at the VA Seattle VA Medical Center. And I would have people walking around the corner going, "Oh my goodness, I thought you were playing like a radio or something." Right, because how do you get 3 voices or 6 voices right out of one mouth? So it's very cool, but it also, if you use it correctly, it is like it takes you to the next level of singing. So that's what I wanted to say about that pedal. I can recommend it as, as much as cash as you have, go find one.
You've got some
Okay.
other toys to share. I'm gonna
I
step out
do,
here
I
and
do.
then
So
you.
let's go here. So now, we were looking at John's pedals, and I have a box under here that has a bunch of pedals in it that I'll never use again. So I want to just give you a little background. I'm on an iPad, MacBook Pro with a beefy processor and memory because it requires some computing power to make these things work. But this is something you call MainStage. It's a performer's software package, and it allows you to construct all of your guitar effects, your vocal effects, your backing tracks, all within one interface. And so I'm not going to get into the complexities of that, but I am going to show you that, for example, I can create a pedal board in here that looks very much like a pedal board you'd see on the floor of a stage, performing stage. And I can put a number of different kinds of pedals in here. I'm not going to go through the library of pedals, but this is a great way to get one of these free packages and try out different pedals without having to lay down, $50 to $150 to just see what it sounds like. In this pedal board, I have a graphic EQ. John showed you that to basically get more control over the tone of your guitar. I have chorus and I have echo. By the way, one thing you don't see here are cables. And whoever invented all of this electrical conductivity and requiring cables, I want to shoot.
Oh, wireless is king.
Yeah, wireless is king. This is actually wireless guitar right now. Those are not very expensive anymore.
Nope.
But can you hear the guitar?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the buttons. So I can turn off the EQ, I can turn off the chorus, I can turn off the echo, and the little light goes on and off. But these are all, in this case, unfortunately not. But for most of the other software effects that I have, I can control these with a single 6-button plain Jane looking pedal on my pedal board through something called MIDI that I'll only get to, and I'll touch on it in just a few minutes. But this is a great way to have all those pedals in your, your bag, so to speak. And I'll just put on this one distortion because everybody likes distortion, right? And that's turned on, I think. Okay, let's turn this on. Okay, let's turn that pedal board off. But you can see
that was quite effective.
Yeah,
It does
yeah.
what it told you.
I wanted to really just lay it on. Okay.
I like to have the fuzz face on there, John. Or Mike. Sorry, Mike.
There you
I
go.
like that fuzz face
Yeah,
that
that's
was
okay.
in there.
There you go. Yep, fuzz face. All right, so I'm just going to show you Tone Bridge very briefly. This is something from, oh gosh, who's the folks now? Ultimate Guitar
Ultimate
produces
Guitar.
this now, right? And this is a way to get in. You want to dial in. Oops, hold on. Let me turn off. Well, the pedal board is turned off. Let's see what we got here. Do I have it on the amp? So this is when the demo prior to this just works beautifully, and then everything goes to heck in a handbasket when you're actually trying to show it. So that is my
Welcome
amp.
to my world.
Yeah, welcome to my world. Exactly. So I'm going to turn off all these. They shouldn't be coming through, but who knows?
But I think
All right, that's crazy.
Michael, I think what you're demonstrating here is the the process that you go through to dial in your sound, as we say, when we're using effects. It's not simply just push a button and it'll all magically work. You do need to take the
No.
time to, and this is something that our panel, Daniel and myself as well, have been talking about as a future episode, and that is dialing in your tone. But Michael's giving you, just like what John was showing you, how to dial in each of the pedals to your.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna show you the intricacies of pedals, like how do you adjust them. But what Tone Bridge allows you to do is, let's say you want to go and play the sound that Smoke, is from Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple. Right, I'm not going to play Smoke on the Water for you, but I can click on that and I can get their tone. Now it all, their tone comes through a set of, an amp or a PA, and it has a, cabinet which affects the tone. But I can then, I can click here and I can see the pedals that they're using. So here's a noise gate, here's some other things, here's the amp they're using, and I can't really expand on that in this interface. But you can then get a sense of, well, how are they creating that particular that particular sound. And then if I go here, I can change the parameters, the drive, presence, bass of that particular item that I'm focusing on. Right, so I can increase the drive on it. So this is a very shorthand way of dialing in somebody else's sound and then tweaking it to your own liking. So I'm going to turn that off. And then the last thing I'll show you is this amp, right? And so I have bands use amps, and you may go, oh, Stevie Ray Vaughan loved this particular amp that he was using. Well, in this particular piece of software, I can call up any one of those amps. Like here's a clean Jazz Fat amp, right? And here's a bunch of clean amps that I can, here's a heavy clean, right? And I'll just demonstrate another one for you. So here's hers, let's see, brownout clean. And you should have heard a difference in that. And so I can dial in the amp, and I can also, just for giggles, go in here and say, okay, but what if I put it in this cabinet, right? Here's a 4x10-inch speaker cabinet. How does that sound? And then I can change the mic that it's being mic'd with, and I can move the mic around in some of these things. Okay. So that's the amp. So I set up an amp to use, and those three things, pedal board, I don't use tone bridge, but just to demo, pedal board and amp are the two effects that I put on a guitar, and I can get any sound that you can think of out of a guitar, whether it's acoustic or electric, I can get using these two particular things. I can sound like a space monster, right? I can sound like an orchestra through these interfaces. All right. Are we taking questions briefly? Can't hear you, Tom.
Tom?
Okay. Are we taking questions?
I think maybe we might have lost Tom. Hang on a second.
Sorry, I'm here. I was on
Oh,
mute.
I had to change my view.
You know what? I haven't even been, I'm sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat, but if there are questions, go ahead and, you know what? If you would like to unmute right now, let's just go ahead and open it up. Of course, if you can do it one at a time, that'd be great. Go ahead and throw your questions to the panel. Let me go ahead and get everyone back on here. Um, and just go ahead and unmute, and we'll just field your questions for you. Let me see. Let me get everyone on here. I'm missing Dan. There he is.
By the way, the one last thing I'd like to say, which I don't have time to demonstrate, is that if you look to the right, you would have seen a vocal column. I can apply vocal effects, which I do, using the same types of interface, right? But vocal processors to my voice that's coming through the microphone. And the last thing I'd like to mention is that in order to connect your electric output of your acoustic guitar or your electric guitar to your computer, you need an audio interface. This is a little bit bigger one, but they come under $100, and they can fit in the palm of your hand. So you connect the guitar or the mic to that, you put a USB to your computer, and then it will send the sounds of those processors back out through the audio interface and into your amp or your PA or a set of headphones if you want to listen privately.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the last piece.
A must have. Hey, Michael, thank you very much for presenting that.
Thanks, Mike.
John and Michael have put together some
They're
options
amazing.
for you. So you can take a look at, if your choice is to go digital, or if you'd like to go back to, to what we call vintage and classic equipment as well too. It depends on really what you want to do. Are you out there to perform? Do you want to record in studio? Do you want to go through an amp? Do you want to use pedals? Do you want to do things virtually? The options, there are plenty of them. Again, if you have a question, you can either unmute or you can put something in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that. As we come up about 10 minutes to the top of the hour, I'd like to go ahead and do a round robin here with a show and tell. If you guys have something that you want to show to the audience in the way of effects that you weren't able to bring up on screen, or maybe talk about any of the things that you are thinking of maybe acquiring in the way of effects. And I'll start when my first pedal was an Eric Clapton pedal. I think it was Digitech who put it out, and this was back in it was probably early 2000s. And didn't have, I just had my Telecaster with me, and I thought, you know what, this is my first pedal. I'll go ahead and plug it in. And I thought, where where did this sound come from? It just opened the entire idea of guitar effects with that one pedal. It emulated the sound of his playing on the different stages of his career, from from Cream to Derek and the Dominoes, into his later years. And this was back in like 2002 or so. Digitech was the one who put that out. That was the most memorable introduction that I had to to effects, to guitar effects. So Dan, you're next.
Oh man, I'm gonna date myself. Back in 1972, and this is funny because I don't know, probably nobody remembers the old S&H green stamps.
Oh yeah, 100 per page.
Oh man,
Uh-huh. Unless you
and
have the Big Ten, the Super Tens.
I had saved up enough that I could actually got a wah fuzz.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
Wawa.
never forget. I wore it out. I mean, I was top dog with that.
Were you trying to emulate one of your favorite guitar players?
Actually, yes. Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad
Yeah.
at that time. Yep. Or I had just, I was starting to get into listening to Cream, Black Sabbath, all the heavy bands were coming out at that time, or had already been out for maybe a couple of years. But that's what I was looking for. Distortion was the big thing, the fuzz.
Hey,
I always wanted to get, and I still haven't gotten one ever. If I could ever find one, was the original Roto Vibe,
oh
and
boy.
that's the chorusing. It's more of a flanging effect or the rotary speaker effect that Jimi Hendrix used.
Well, let's see. Leave Eric Peterson. Any thoughts on Overdrive to the
Do
panel?
it. Do it.
Do it. Yeah, yeah, you got it. That's kind of like one of the essential electric guitar. If you're playing rock, I've always thought Overdrive was definitely one of those
Mm-hmm.
the one you would want to definitely get and put into your pedal chain for sure.
I just kind of want to say that, first of all, I'm not a paid spokesperson for Spark. I don't work for them. Spark, Spark just happens to be the new shiny object. But that being said, if Michael and John buy Spark and really like it and want to sell all their gear, we can talk about a great Guitars for Vets fundraiser. The other
Of
thing I want to
course.
say, if you just got your acoustic guitar and an amp, or your electric guitar and an amp, some kind of best practices to think about. When you plug in, make sure the volume on your guitar is down and the volume on your amp is down. That'll just help protect the speaker. But all of this stuff we're talking about, if you think about an analogy, it's kind of like seasoning for food. So I might like salt a lot more than you. You might not like pepper. So there isn't like a right or wrong to this. Your best guide is going to be the guitar players you love to hear and your ear. So when you first plug into an amp, if your amp has a reverb dial or a chorus dial, even before you're messing with any of that, you could almost turn all that off. Plug in, you're going to probably have a little bit of an EQ, which is a mid and a bass. Strum your guitar, turn the volume up on your guitar, and start playing with the mid and the bass and the treble, because you're already coloring your sound in a lot of ways that are within the reach of your amp or your pedals. Things like overdrive and reverb, particularly reverb, I'm kind of the school that starting with less is more. And kind of a best practice to all of these, if you want to try chorus or overdrive, strum a power chord on your guitar with your setting, whatever the spice is at 0, and keep strumming and just start tuning it up. And your ear will hear the saturation with reverb or overdrive. The thing with overdrive is like when we're playing clean, there's different levels of overdrive. There's a crunch, which is just a little bit of gain breaking through. And the best way to hear that is if you're playing like a full clean G chord or E chord, because as you turn the overdrive up, you could start to hear the sounds. You're not able to individually hear the strings as well because it's overdriven and they're kind of melding into each other, which is part of the effect. But just use your ears and experiment. Start with these dials at 0, strum, and start lifting these dials up just to see what it's doing to your sound. And you could do that with your pedals, with your amp. Your guitar has a volume pedal. You can play with the sound. Your pickup sound will change based on how much volume you're giving it. And you all have tone knobs. The tone knob will darken the sound or brighten the sound. So all of this is kind of just seasoning to whatever your guitar output's putting out or whatever your acoustic guitar sounds like.
Great advice, Paul. Thank you.
Awesome,
J-
Paul. Thanks.
John, hey, John, let's go back to you now. Do you have any favorite pedal? You probably did already talk about this, but maybe you can kind of go back and give us some ideas to maybe where you're headed with effects.
Well, so back in the day, I was a Mark Farner fan too. That whole kind of power trio thing.
Amen.
Although they brought the keyboard in, a little bit later, but yeah. So to me, it was about getting a boost pedal, right? Because you were playing loud, and now you had to do a solo. You wanted to be even louder, and that distortion. I think that was really my youth, and then as I got older, it became more around, more subtle things. And frankly, I play a lot of acoustic now. The last 10 years, I do have my electric guitars, and I still use them, and I occasionally still get together and jam with the guys. But I really like the idea of simple is more, and so I stick to these sort of basic, sounds. Kind of what I showed you. I've got the tremolo going, or the some kind of a delay pedal and a reverb. I think that one thing I didn't mention is I do use a compressor because I have this tendency to kind of dig in when I don't intend to on the strings, and a compressor will do two things. It will kind of keep the dynamics closer, to each other, kind of flatten that out, the highs and the lows as far as volume. The other thing is it does give you a little bit more sustain. If you think about quiet sounds, get a little bit louder as well with a compressor. So, like I say, I kind of went kind of the opposite of my youth. The older I got a little more subtle and a little bit more. Again, I love acoustic, and I do pull out the. In fact, one of the things I do when I get together with a lot of guys who are playing acoustics, I'll bring my electric with, and then that gives you a little bit different, spice with what you're playing with the group. And I'm not a great lead player. I've always been a rhythm player, but I'll take an attempt at a lead line, here or there, as
I'm there
well
with
with the
you,
electric.
John. I'm
Yeah,
totally there
yeah,
with you. I mean, I've
yeah.
got more, I think I've got more acoustic pedals. Um, because it's like, you know what, I'd like to go ahead and try that out. And then with what Michael brought up with the TC Helicon, I think that their sound, Voice Life 3 is what I ended up getting. And it had just the features that I needed to go out there and gig as a soloist, and have all of the fancy features with that, including the effects. And I can use it on my electric as well too. Thanks
Yep.
for that, Michael. Is there some closing thoughts? Any comments that you'd like to add to what we've already presented here?
Yeah, don't get lost trying out software sounds. You, you could spend your life listening to cool sounds coming out of your guitar. That's one of them. For me, it's finding. I do dial in each song, and I do put effects differently on each song potentially. But for me, it's about sort of adding one little thing that raises the production value of what I'm doing. So if I have chorus, reverb, etc. on the song, my vocals, I can kick in a harmony. Well, what if I get a software synth or a sampler, and now my guitar has, when I play a G chord, I'm hearing sort of an orchestra, a symphonic orchestra in the background paralleling my guitar playing. And so I do that because, again, production value. People don't expect that from a one-man band, and when they hear it, they go like, "Wow, this is like the next level." So for me, it's find a core sound that you want to play with, and then tweak that. Leave it the same for every song just to start out with, and then think about, okay, what can I do to add to this? If I'm using software, pedals are expensive, so if I'm using software, how can I add to this? And how can I use MIDI, MIDI, right, to push a button on the floor and everything happens for me? And the other thing, I just wanted to show you one last. I used to have a pedal board full of pedals, and I'm just going to point this at the floor. That is my current pedal board. You'll see a black box with buttons. That's my MIDI controller. I push one of those, it makes magic happen at all my effects. In the middle is my audio interface, and on the right on my left is a blank space right now where I put my MacBook Pro. That's my pedal board. And I will tell you that having used software for effects now, it is just amazing at what I can do, and far cheaper in the long run than if I'm buying pedals and tweaking pedals. So I'm not gonna say pedals have no place, but for me, this is the next level of performance. And huge rock bands use software, rack-mounted software now, for example, or even
Absolutely.
Mac software running for their effects. It's just amazing how far these have come and how good they are. So there you go. That's kind of my final.
And more user friendly as well as it.
Oh, a
And
lot more
also,
user friendly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And here's the thing, though. They are more user friendly in a lot of ways, but then it tempts you to get more technologies at a quicker pace, more platforms, more solutions. It's kind of like, okay, now that I've kind of mastered this first effect, I'm going to get me another one. And then it's like, then you're going to have to get familiar with a new pedal with new,
Yeah. And
new
you
ways
find a
to work
learning
it.
curve. Once you learn how to set up the basis for it, just, get Guitar Rig, right? Guitar Rig 7 is the latest version. Play with that with your audio interface in your computer. And once you learn how to use that, then adding a pedal is not such a big deal. As you drag it over, you put it on, or if it's a rack mount, scenario like Guitar Rig, you just add another rack component to it. You tweak some knobs, you go, that sounds pretty cool. So there is a learning curve, but once you get to a certain level, then it becomes a lot easier.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this very informative hour with guitar effects really at the forefront of everything. Amps,
It's
pedals,
over?
software. Oh, I know you and I can go on for
We're done?
hours. I know.
Come
Hard to
on.
believe. But Paul
Oh,
has another comment. Yes.
I just want everyone to welcome Leif Peterson, who's on this call. He just finished getting onboarded to become a new G4V instructor after
all
graduating from the
right.
program. So
Oh,
we're really
Leif,
excited to have Leif as part of the team.
great to be, yeah,
Fantastic.
working with you, my friend. Thank you and congratulations. Just a couple of side notes here. A couple of events that are coming up on February 12th. That's Wednesday. Join me for a conversation with U.S. Army veteran Schaefer Muller. And he's going to be talking about how songwriting works for him, talk about his military career as well, guitar stuff. A really good conversation is planned for that. He's going to sing some of his original songs for us acoustically. February 19th, on Wednesday, February 19th. That's the Guitar Brigade lesson. Altered tunings. Paul, what do you have to add about that one?
February 19th,
Yes.
8:30, I believe it is.
Yes.
The Guitar Brigade's coming back for 2025 with their initial episode on alter tuning. So we're going to explore a couple different alter tunings, show you how easy it is to kind of get different sounds out of your guitar.
Fantastic. All right, gentlemen, thanks again. And we'll be back here for the guitar shop. It'll be every second Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific. And I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, although we've got a lot of ideas, don't we, Dan?
Oh my God.
Thanks so
It's
much.
going to be a good year, Tom.
Great
It's going to
seeing
be
you
a
guys.
good
All
year.
right, everyone.
Guys.
Take care, everyone. Thanks again for joining us
Yeah.
this afternoon, this evening.